Well, today I thought I'd bring together a few concepts actually. I thought I'd work on some of my dinner at 8 bra and go through some of the different ways of covering these satin covered foam power bars. But while I was there, I actually started to think about some of, anyway, the next thing before I get on to starting on the power bars, I did want to mention that whenever I'm sewing, I always change my needles every 8 to 10 hours. And my favorite needle that I use pretty much for everything, including stretch fabrics, is a Microtex 70. It's the Schmetz brand. I find it's worth paying extra for the Schmetz brand. And then every few days, I clean under the needle plate of the sewing machine, take out the bobbin, clean out all the fluff, and I clean out all the fluff from below the needle plate because I often find that might be sometimes a reason for the thread getting caught down there if you've got fluff under the needle plate. And you want to just dig it out with a brush. Don't blow it because you just blow it back down again. And the other thing was I just thought I'd talk about threads because I don't think I've spoken about that for a while. You want to use a polyester thread so there's a bit of stretch, not a cotton thread. My favourite threads are the Gutmann Mara, and I don't remember right at the minute, but if someone wants to send me a message, I will look up where I get those in Australia. Or the same Superior Threads So Fine. They're my favourites. They're a little bit more. And then every few days, I clean under the needle plate of the sewing machine, take out the bobbin, clean out all the fluff, and I clean out all the fluff from below the needle plate because I often find that might be sometimes a reason for the thread getting caught down there if you've got fluff under the needle plate. And you want to just dig it out with a brush. Don't blow it because you just blow it back down again. And the other thing was I just thought I'd talk about threads because I don't think I've spoken about that for a while. You want to use a polyester thread so there's a bit of stretch, not a cotton thread. My favourite threads are the Gutmann Mara, and I don't remember right at the minute, but if someone wants to send me a message, I will look up where I get those in Australia. Or the same Superior Threads So Fine. They're my favourites. They're a little bit more expensive, but the standard Gutmann polyester is absolutely fine if I don't have any colours in the others left, and I can just go down to my local kitchen supply to get those, so that's terrific. So this is the dinner at 8 bra, the variation 2. Variation 2 has my signature wide straps, and it has this cutout at the bottom to display the power bar behind. And the reason I wanted to go through that today is I wanted to go through how to do the foam power bar, but I'm also looking towards how to do this but use a machine embroidery on here and then even perhaps beading it. So I'm sort of going through working out how I'm going to do that. Within the pattern booklet I have got how to do the pin tucks like that. This one, this is variation 4, which is based on the movie Barbarella. If anyone hasn't watched that movie in a long time, it's a bit of a, a legendary movie. And keeping a bit vintage more, but on a different style. This is variation 2, but using a woven for the power bar and the frame. It's a Liberty cotton. With a lace just to give a different look, but quite pretty. So today I'm going to use this lace for the cup and this satin that I got from Beware. The satin actually is a stretch, which normally I'm using a woven for the power bars, but this one I just like the colour, so it's not exactly following the pattern. And keeping it real, for those that watch me on Instagram, you might have seen that I was going to dye the elastic. Well, I have dyed all of the findings in the elastic, but they've come up a little bit more orange than I had planned, so I'm probably going to re-dye those or use something from my stash. I just think it's good to be real and say sometimes things don't work out as planned. So now I'm going to come down onto the table and go through how to make those power bars. So next we're going to cut out the power bar in the foam, and you can see I've cut out the paper pattern piece with the wider strap here because we're doing variation 2. And I realise I've made a bit of a misnomer, so to speak, here, because what we want to do is cut this on the bias. So this line here is going to go on the bias grain. So I've laid the ruler here to follow the diagonal line here so that I make sure that I'm cutting this on the bias grain. And for the foam, the best thing to do for that is to grab our air-soluble pen, trace around that, and then cut it out with your paper scissors, because otherwise it'll blunt your fabric scissors. So you can see I've got that line there, and as I said, I'm going to cut that out with my paper scissors so that it doesn't blunt my fabric scissors or my rotary cutter. So that's why I don't use the rotary cutter either. Next, we're going to cut out the satin that covers over the top of that power bar. Now, I deliberately didn't make an actual paper pattern piece for the satin overlay, because I find no matter how much you cut it with a paper piece, it always shifts. So what I usually do is I just extend this bit that way. Can you see? I've got that... I can't explain it any other way. Anyway, and then I freestyle draw that with my erasable pen, and that allows for that turn under there. And then I use an extension up this way, 4 centimeters, which is the overlap for the top here. And then coming down, again, the same here. Whoops, a bit harder to show when I'm trying to do on the... and then have that curve come up here and finish up there. So it's very freestyle, but I find it shifts anyway, so that's the best way to do it. And you need to make sure that there is enough of a... enough left that edge there too. I forgot to mention that before I cut it out. Next, I'm going to start... I've aligned this foam up against the edge there with... This is our 4 centimeter mark for the top of the strap, and then I'm going to pin that all along the edge there with that right side facing the wrong side of the power bar. And I've got these pins, which I love. These are my favorites. These are the Clover silk pins, which I use for everything for lingerie. And I've started pinning at the top there, but now what I'm doing is actually pinning around the curve here, because we want it to be around a curve on our body. And that reduces the wrinkles when you get to that part. So I've pinned that all around a curve, and that means actually there's that much left at the edge, and everything just shifts around when you're doing that. So that's why I haven't bothered to do a paper piece for this. And then we're going to start to stitch in here with a 1/4 inch seam or 6 mil. And I usually start up the top here with that stitch before I get to here, just because it makes it easier to turn this bit under later. So you can see I've got that turn under there. And then I'm going to iron that back here all along that side, and then roll it to the front. Don't iron it. And again, we're going to pin that around a curve. I'll come back to you once I've done the ironing part. So that's all ironed back there, but then we come to the outside and roll it. Just keep rolling that, and roll it, and roll it, and roll it, and roll it, until you get to the point here, Now, I don't iron this because it just causes a ridge, and it's softer if you just roll it. And then you can see what I'm doing is continually rolling that. And I'm actually at the same time having this coming, that bit there. And I want this again to be continually pinned around a curve. And hand based across here and all around the edge, and then we'll cut off the excess. And that is that power bar done. And I'm then going to go and move on and show you how I'm going to try and do this other quilted one before I do the cup, which will go over the top. For cutting out the lace for the cup, you want to line up here this seam, which is going to be at the bridge, with a lower point of scallop here, and with what you want to be shown at the bridge here, which I've got that pretty pink area. Then follow this lower point of lace, which is lower point of lace along the line here, which does mean this will be sitting up here higher. And when I'm cutting this out, I'm going to go up here and pull that up to there. Then from the other side, you can see I've turned that pattern piece upside down. I've actually got the point here with the seam allowance at the lower point here. Match the lower point of the lace across the lower point of the lace here, but it does mean it's going to divert to go lower at the other edge. So you can see here I've slip stitched that bit back there, and I've actually just run that through the foam here, and I'm coming across here to hand base this to the edge. Now, while I'm doing that, I did think I would just take the time to chat about a few things. First of all, with hand sewing, same thing, very careful with your needle size. And especially that you're using a sharp needle so that you don't get any pulling of any of your, this isn't a silk, but your satin, same thing. So these are really old, which you can tell by the price, but this isn't a brand I use. I just can get that at the local kitchen shop. I live in a very small country town, but I will use a sharp size 8 for my hand sewing. Or with silk, I sometimes even use the betweens or the quilting needles between a size or an 8 or a 10, because they've got a smaller eye. Which brings me to the next thing I was going to say, is that I'm looking to do some live workshops. Probably there'll be 3 hours as a set of 5, lots of 3 hours on different topics. I thought... and they'll be live worldwide. I'm just trying to work out which time zone to focus them towards. Because the US, Australia, and New Zealand have all different times. I tend to find that the 8 a.m. time slot fits most. The UK, that's actually 9 or 7 o'clock at night though, but it's better for the US and better for Australia. So it really depends on which people are interested actually. As the other thing is that I have lots and lots of sample kits left over, samples now from designing patterns, and I was donating them to Live Goods as a charity here in Australia, but I'm not able to do that anymore. So I thought I might sell those on my Instagram as samples. The other thing I'm going to do is, with all my extensive stash of supplies, is make up some kits that I'll be selling on my website, and those kits will be curated specifically for my patterns, either the dinner at 8 or the Betty Brass, so they'll be all inclusive, and I'll be selling those on my website. So I just thought I'd go through some of those things while I'm finishing off this, and I'll come back to you. So now that I've finished hand basting all of that around the curve, I'm now going to trim back the excess here. And I meant to say, when I got to the top here, I just got the ruler and my water-soluble pen or air erasable pen and drew that line there, and then cut that for the top of that bit. That's actually later going to have be attached to the strap at the top. Whoops. So now I'm going to work on making that cup for the dinner at 8 V2. And the main thing with when we're attaching that power bar is that we're going to attach it to the frame around a curve, and I'll work on a tutorial for that later when I finish the cup for the dinner at 8. And I'm also, as I said, going to work on a tutorial later for how to do some machine like quilting onto this cup, but that will mean that I'll need to actually cut it out after I've quilted the foam and then put a bind at the edge there. I did think next time though, the next video, I might talk about wire lengths. Anyway, perhaps in the comments people could let me know what they might like to learn next.